CERN is the name of an organization, not a machine or technology. CERN is a European research organization that operates the largest particle physics laboratory in the world. What they say is that the name CERN is derived from the acronym for the French Conseil Européen pour la Recherche Nucléaire. I don't speak French, so pardon me. But as you learn more about them, you may see that it is not a coincidence that their name is short for the name of the Celtic pagan horn god of the underworld, Cernunnos. But as I was saying, this organization was established on September 29, 1954. It is based in a northwest suburb of Geneva, Switzerland, which is where other organizations, for instance like the World Economic Forum, who is responsible for the Great Reset agenda, and then we have the banking rules that exist in Switzerland, where the rich have always hidden their money. When you understand this, you cannot push their location off as just a coincidence. I do not believe any connections that you will make in regards to this organization are just mere coincidences. So yeah, the facility was built at a northwest suburb of Geneva, Switzerland, on the Franco-Swiss border. Now, CERN is not a private organization. It has 23 member states. Again, no coincidence if you understand the number 23. These are the countries. Member states have special duties and privileges. They make a contribution to the capital and operating costs of CERN's programs and are responsible for all important decisions about the organization and its activities. Israel is the only non-European country granted full membership. So it is an organization not controlled by one particular country or business, but it is funded by over 23 countries. The United States and Japan, the European Union, and UNESCO, which is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, all have observer status with respect to the LHC, which I will get into shortly. But again, what is important about this is understanding that CERN is not that machine, but it is an organization. When you're saying CERN, you're talking about an organization, not a machine. A great deal of the funding for CERN comes from the taxpayers in various Western countries in Europe. Many of you who live in European countries have been financing these experiments with your tax dollars. But that's just a piece of their fundraising. CERN scientists have received hundreds of grants and endowments from governments all across the world, totaling hundreds of millions of dollars, like we see here with the United States giving millions of dollars to CERN. Now, along with the donations from countries, CERN has a fundraising arm that collects private donations from very wealthy contributors all across the world. Now, if you watch my video about modern-day medicine and the Breaking Out of the Matrix series, it should not be a surprise to you that CERN is heavily supported by the Rockefeller family. And this support is not just financial, but also through scientists who work for Rockefeller University, which is of course owned by the Rockefeller family. For instance, like this article on Rockefeller University's site on October 10, 2013. Rockefeller scientists among those involved in search for Higgs boson. At Rockefeller, 10 scientists led by Konstantin Galianos, head of the Laboratory of Experimental High-Energy Physics, were involved in developing particle detectors that were deployed at CERN and in processing and reviewing data they collect. Yeah, they're involved. It should not be a secret to you of the Rockefeller family involvement though. Again, if you watch my video on modern-day medicine, you would already understand the hand that Rockefeller University has on modern-day science and medicine. The fact is that, though most of us know very little about CERN besides knowing their name and their large machine, the LHC, the truth is that CERN has an enormous amount of control over us. It has subtle controls over us that you probably aren't even aware of. I mentioned this in my most recent Breaking Out of the Matrix video when speaking about the internet, but it should be known that CERN is the creator and the birthplace of the World Wide Web. In March of 1989, CERN created the web, and from the year 1991 and onward, the team at CERN developed the World Wide Web. April 30th, 1993 is the date which CERN gave up the rights to charge royalties for the World Wide Web technology. They developed the technology and distributed it to the world. The internet that we use and are controlled by and every one of us access every day was created at CERN. So let me give you a basic summary of what they do. They push the boundaries of science, and through their experiments and findings, that research gets disseminated to other scientists which expand on their work in different industries. CERN was established to study the building blocks of matter, which is described as the component of everything in the known universe. Now listen, I'm right now using their terms and their descriptions. And it's important to understand that just because I'm saying this does not mean that I personally believe it to be the truth. That's just as a disclaimer for people who like to jump ahead of my points. CERN is the largest scientific research project in the entire world. More than 7,000 scientists use its facilities. They call the organization a bridge for peace because scientists from all areas of the world come together to perform these experiments, even though they have cross-border disputes.
Under the CERN model, physicists remain employed by their national institutes, but can use the tools that the organization provides. Each country is able to keep its best minds. The laboratory's activities develop quickly. The increasingly large accelerators soon extend into French territory, so CERN becomes the world's first cross-border laboratory, an excellent symbol of science unconstrained by national borders. The purely scientific nature of the research attracts physicists from many nations, despite the political tensions between them. During the Cold War, CERN is one of the few places in the world where Western and Soviet scientists work side by side.
These scientists all were able to work together because there was a bond that was more important than international politics. For almost 70 years, this organization has been working on scientific developments that have been shaping our world, while we have very little knowledge of what it is that they are actually doing. We know they are there, we know they are doing experiments, but we do not know very much past this. They are right in the open, but still a secret. So let's discuss the main part of their experiments. What most people call CERN is actually the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. This device is not called CERN. It is again located and owned by CERN. The LHC is the world's largest known particle collision machine, or particle collider. The LHC is a 17-mile long circle of conducting electromagnets buried approximately 100 meters, which is over 300 feet, below the ground level near the city of Geneva on the Franco-Swiss border. And this is where CERN conducts many physics experiments in particle acceleration. They turned it on for the first time on September 10, 2008. They say the LHC beams proton particles to a velocity just under the speed of light, and then smashes them together inside the particle chamber detector in order to break apart the nuclei and unloose the subatomic secrets of matter. Yeah, that's how they explain it. You can tell that they don't really want you to understand what it is they're doing. If you're not indoctrinated in their scientific theories, all of that may make little sense to you. The main point to understand is their goals, which was said at the end of that. The main goals of the LHC are to answer the question, what is the origin of mass? What are dark matter and dark energy? Why is there far more matter than antimatter in the universe? And will they discover evidence for supersymmetry? These are all scientific jargon that if you get tied into it, it will lead you in their masks and deceptions. I don't get into all that. Talking about dark matter, antimatter, the God particle, that is not for me. There is a lot more to all this than how they like to explain it. With all that they do, you would expect them to explain these subjects with a little more clarity so that it is at least very digestible. But they do not do this because they do not want us to truly know what it is that they are actually doing. So before I get into more of that, let's get into what they say they are doing with the LHC. The LHC, again, the Large Hadron Collider, has been called the most ambitious scientific experiment ever attempted. What the LHC does is try to recreate the moments after the Big Bang. Their 27-kilometer enclosed ring, punctuated by 4 enormous camera-like detectors, mimics and records events. They record these seconds right after what they recreate as the Big Bang. And by doing this, they hope to find the answers of the universe, life, and everything else along with it. And by this information, tied with some other information, you can actually then understand what is truly going on. So, what is that other information? Well, understand, when you hear people say that they are trying to find the answers of the universe and life and everything else, you normally come across this from people who claim to be atheists. They don't believe in God, so they keep saying that they're looking for answers of the universe. But let's be clear that that is not what's going on here. We already brought up the fact that the name CERN is short for the Celtic horn god CernLHC. And if you understand paganism, all horn gods can be linked to the Greek god Pan, which goes back to Lucifer and the Baphomet. But let's just for now say coincidence, so we don't need to get ahead of ourselves. Let's take a look at where they are located. They are in the community of Saint-Genès-Paulais. This is on the border of Geneva, Switzerland, and eastern France. This community took that current name of Saint Genus in the year 1887. Now, in Roman times, this location was called Apolliacum. Just go to Google Maps and type in this word, and it will direct you to CERN. This entire town and temple of Apolliacum during Roman times was dedicated to Apollyon, the destroyer, also known as Shiva, Lord Shiva, Horus, Abaddon, aka Satan or the devil. But leaving out Satan for a second, for those who don't completely understand paganism, just focus on Apollyon. The very city that CERN is sitting on is the ancient temple of the god Apollyon, which today in the Hindu temples is called Shiva, or Lord Shiva, the god of destruction. In the Roman times, a temple existed there in honor of Apollyon, and the people who lived there believed it was a gateway to some kind of underworld. The Hebrew word for Apollyon is Abaddon, and you don't need to go that far to confirm this, because this is literally in the Bible. Revelation chapter 9 verse 11 says, "And they had as a king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek he has the name Apollyon." Yeah, it's right in there. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Hold on. Point we should take here is that we see more evidence of religious influence, which is not what atheists who do not believe in God do. But okay, maybe they didn't know, and that's two coincidences. Look at this. This is the god Shiva of Hindu beliefs. But you know where this is at? Right in front of the CERN nuclear research facility, right in plain sight, is this statue of their god of destruction, Shiva. Shiva is known as the destroyer within the Hindu trinity, which includes Brahma and Vishnu. Shiva is revered along with Vishnu and Brahma. CERN said that this deity was chosen because of a metaphor that was drawn between the cosmic dance of the Nataraja and the modern study of the cosmic dance of subatomic particles. Whatever. Scientists use big descriptions to always raise doubt. That's what they do. I don't need all that extra talk. Just look at the statue. The Shiva statue stands within a great circle, like a sort of halo that has flames going out of it. This is the circle of mass, energy, space, and time, and Shiva is the destroyer. Not to forget what I just said earlier, that Shiva coincides with the Greek god of the underworld, Apollyon, the destroyer. It's the same god, different culture. I mean, that's paganism. This is another religious aspect to CERN, but maybe you are still a doubter and say this is just a third coincidence. If you just allow me to add to that information, just consider that in 2016, a video was released of a satanic ritual performed at CERN. During the ritual, several people in cloaks walk up to the Shiva statue, and then a woman takes off her cloak, she lies on the ground, and then she is then stabbed. This was on the property of CERN, and CERN did eventually comment saying it was a hoax, and they didn't condone this. But either way, anyone that has seen the type of things done at satanic rituals, they can clearly see that something is not right about it all. But whatever. They also did a movie at CERN called Symmetry, where the main character was performing the dance of Shiva in front of the LHC. It's so symbolic and occultic, it's very hard to watch. But that goes with the information about Shiva. CERN was the host of a very strange tunnel opening ceremony at the world's largest rail tunnel near its facility, the Gotthard Base Tunnel. It is said that this tunnel is the longest tunnel in the world. The tunnel cuts through the Alps. And in January of 2016, they had an opening ceremony that was completely occultic. They first had people coming through on a train looking as if they were in some sort of trance, while creepy horror music was playing in the background. After that, a topless angel was walking through the center of evil creatures in costumes. This mindless woman was holding a lamb high in the air as sacrifice. So we have a topless angel, horror music, and a lamb to be sacrificed. But yeah, we're to believe that that was nothing. In the same ceremony, in another rail car that came out of the tunnel, the train was full of evil creatures and Satan was in the midst. The creatures moved around as the Satan character bobbed up and down and screamed and appeared to be controlling the other creatures riding with him. And after he got off the train, he seemed to be in a trance, but doing weird dances. The ceremony seemed to depict that a demonic power that had been sealed behind the mountains had been released. It was very occultic and satanic. Now, at this point, I'm getting tired of just saying maybe a coincidence. But look at this. There's obviously a hidden esoteric project within this organization. This is CERN's logo. In their logo, they have 3 twisted 666 numbers in it. You can't make this stuff up. It's right there in plain sight. Easy to see. So the thing is that they're obviously doing experiments that are deeper than just trying to get the answers to the universe. And if you look into their findings over the last decades, they have made claims to some pretty wild things, particularly what they call the God particle or antimatter. Now here's the thing. I don't claim to really know what it is that they are doing, and I will caution against anyone that speaks with true assurance that they know. This is not something that is just about science, but it's definitely about something more spiritual, especially when you add in the understanding of the other religious coincidences I refer to. No matter what it is they are doing, we must be mindful of it because of the mass scale of the whole thing. In regards to science, they are conducting the biggest science experiments in the world, and we don't really know what the effects of them are. The fact that they are saying that they are recreating the Big Bang just tells us where they are coming from with this. What they are implying is that they deny Yahuwah, the Most High, is the creator of all things, and they subscribe to the theory of life starting on its own. But I don't believe that they believe this because they clearly have a religious aspect to them that stems all the way back to Lucifer. When understanding things from a spiritual side, understanding the occult, one major thing about Lucifer is what he is said to be, is a light bearer. He spreads his light and his knowledge. The terms that they use are all in reference to the esoteric, hidden knowledge, like their love of symmetry. This is a direct reference to the occult. Not to get too deep yet, what it seems is that Satan is spreading his light and giving them knowledge to do things that have never been done before in order to achieve a certain goal. You must realize that in building their LHC, scientists had to literally invent new technologies they did not have in order to make this machine work. They had to invent a computer technology that was able to handle the massive amounts of data that this thing was generating. The kind of data CERN has and uses is very far out from mainstream public consumption physics. Their data is normally kept secret and withheld from the public and only released gradually as they find public adoption for it in the real world. The question is where they are getting this information and understanding from so they can keep breaking these boundaries of physics. And honestly, this is the main point that everyone needs to understand or consider when thinking about this subject. The experiments done here with this organization are about tapping into boundaries and knowledge that we as created beings were not meant to know. The knowledge that they are tapping into comes from Satan and is all about a goal of destroying in order to rebuild. The New World Order consists of many different tools and agendas, and this is just another spoke on a very complex wheel. This science is not about the Big Bang and all that other nonsense. The science is about tapping into another dimension. They are accessing another dimension. Their goal is to connect with another dimension, which we know as the spirit realm. This is all about spiritual warfare. They are connecting to the spirit realm outside the connection of the Most High. They are trying to find ways to manipulate Yah's power and gain more power in the spiritual realm. When understanding this, there is another name that all of this should be labeled as, but because they hide under a banner of science, most people aren't able to recognize what it is that they are actually doing. The word is sorcery, and these scientists are all working towards the same goal, which is increasing the amount of demonic energy in this world. What you're looking at is very high-level witchcraft done right in the open. They are trying to connect to other dimensions and bring out massive demonic energy in this world. This entire CERN project was constructed on occult doctrine. They are all about creating and opening black holes and doorways. They also refer to these as stargates. When you hear about black holes, this is not about outer space. This is about the spirit realm. Matter of fact, here's the key to understanding. When you hear them speak about outer space or the universe, just replace those terms with the spirit realm or spiritual dimension. Their desire is to open up a giant portal to the spirit world to give demons more access to our world, to help reshape it and bring us into their new spiritual age. When they say they're trying to recreate the Big Bang, what they're actually doing is trying to replicate the power of Yah. This is one main agenda of what CERN is about, and they have been telling us consistently in our movies for a long time. For instance, go back to the main agenda of the Avengers movies, with the Infinity Stones.
Big Bangs and 6 elemental crystals hurtling across the virgin universe. These Infinity Stones each control an essential aspect of existence.
All of that power was created after the Big Bang. And this is what they're trying to obtain, all of that power. But in their movies, they have been referencing the black holes and the wormholes and the stargates for a long time, trying to get us to understand what it is that they're doing. For example, there was a movie in the 90s called Stargate.
I've never seen anything like this.
One man will break the code and open the door.
Well,
Where they used a portal to go to another dimension. Only to find out that it was the Egyptian god Ra, aka Lucifer, who built the portal and was using it. Or in that Marvel movie, The Fantastic Four,
They just cracked interdimensional travel.
where they were building a portal going into another dimension. The first Avengers movie was about Loki opening a portal to bring in his invaders to conquer Earth. These themes and ideas are all in front of us, but they are making it like it is entertainment, so you do not understand fully that they are subtly and quietly introducing you to their schemes. When you really understand the spiritual nature to these things, what is going on in this world makes much more sense. And they are not hiding these things from us. They just distract us with secular thinking away from the ways of the Most High. And this keeps us in their web or matrix, and it distracts us from the actual conflict and plot the enemy has against the Most High. If you pay attention to what it is that they have been doing, you will see that they are preparing us in the secular for the war that they are waging. You will notice that many of our major movies all have to do with the experiments at CERN and their LHC. For example, there was that movie Interstellar, that if you watched it multiple times, you still may not understand what messages they were sending out. But when you then add the understanding of what they are doing at CERN, you then actually understand that that movie was a complete indoctrination piece to the scientific experiments and way of life.